We have located our next guest. We go out to the HRMP guest line right now. We bring on the co-host of The Bench with John and Lance. He is Lance Zierlein, and he joins us now. Lance, appreciate the time. Glad we could track you down. We thought you were big-timing us.
No, I just didn't have my phone with me.
All good. So we've, of course, been talking about Lovie Smith throughout the course of the afternoon on our show. What's your take on it? It has since become official in the news, if you're just tuning in. Pep Hamilton retained as the offensive coordinator now, and Frank Ross is back as the special teams coordinator.
Yeah, I think, Lovie actually checks a lot of the boxes. This guy's a former head coach. He's a guy who's good in the building, high moral character stuff. Really thought very highly of by people around the NFL. I mean, I don't know if he is a long-term solution as a head coach. I think he has more than enough. More than enough on his resume to assume that he can be more than just a short-term coach, a 2 to 3 year coach. However, I am curious to see if Josh McCown is hired at any point to be the quarterback coach. Because if that's the case, then, you almost wonder if he's the head coach in waiting. So that's what I'm going to wait to see, if that happens.
LZ, in your opinion, did what the Texans do at the head coach spot drastically affect how they're going to approach the draft? Or is that just Nick Caserio is always going to be the guy deciding what they're doing, and the head coach, whoever it is, will just coach who he picks?
Yeah, I think it's irrelevant who the head coach is. They've got such a build on their hands. Now, it might have been different if the Texans roster was different, but right now, whether they were to lock in on a defensive head coach like Lovie Smith or an offensive head coach like Josh McDaniels, it was irrelevant. They have so much building to do across the board with their roster that who the head coach is really irrelevant because A, they're not going to have control of the 53-man roster, and B, I think Nick is going to just build the team. I don't think there's any particular scheme. Look, Lovie Smith will have some input in terms of what types of players from a schematic standpoint. I'm assuming he's going to be a one-gapping 4-3 up the field defense, but that was a lot of what they did last year anyway because he was a defensive coordinator, so I don't think that changes anything really.
Lance, I want to give you the opportunity to talk more about this coaching stuff on your show tomorrow morning. I want to get your take on the Senior Bowl. You, of course, spent last week in Mobile. We'll start with the quarterbacks. Look, I don't think the Texans are in the market for a quarterback in the first round. I don't think anybody believes that's the case. But, Nick Caserio has talked about being open to trading down for the number 3 pick. And generally, when teams want to move up that high, it's because of a quarterback. We've heard for a long time that there's not really a top 5, even top 10 QB in this class. Do you think anybody, maybe Kenny Pickett, maybe Malik Willis, did enough at the Senior Bowl to where one team could be intrigued to maybe call the Texans at 3 on draft night?
Not at 3, but I do have the Steelers trading up a couple spots with the Chargers to draft Malik Willis. I had to finish my mock draft. It's not going to come out until, I think tomorrow, either tomorrow or Wednesday. But I did have the Texans trading back a couple of spots with the Giants. I did flip them from 3 to 5. So, I did have the Texans trading back in this scenario. You'll have to, see who I give them in the at NFL.com when it comes out. But I do think the Texans are good, just based on the way this draft is going to unfold. I think it would be wise for the Texans to try to move backwards. I'd love for them to move, anywhere from 2 spots to about 5 spots. I don't think you want to move too far back. If you do, of course, your draft pick is going to be, the draft pick you get in return in terms of in addition to your swap pick is going to be a better pick. But I think there's a sweet spot of talent, between maybe pick about 4 and 8. So I'm not crazy about the number 3 pick. I think, I'm a big fan of Kyle Hamilton, but if you want Kyle Hamilton, I think it'd be better off trying to get him at number 5 if you're going to draft a safety. The Texans may look at this and say, look, we love safety, but he's just not going to have as big an impact as defensive end or offensive tackle or cornerback. Those are the 3 positions I think the Texans will definitely keep a very close eye on in the first round of the draft. So I don't see anyone coming up from Malik Willis. you'll hear him get blown up as though he had this amazing Senior Bowl. The reality is he was just okay. It's just a lot of hyperbole coming out of Mobile, but none of the quarterbacks really stood out a great deal. They had some moments that were better than others, but I don't think there's going to be a quarterback in the top 10.
LZ, you mentioned that you had the Texans trading back in the mock that's going to come out on NFL.com, and the folks can catch that when it comes out. So I don't want you to spoil it, but is there a name or a guy that if he surprisingly was there at 3, the Texans should take that guy and maybe avoid the trade back? Is there a name that is worthy of 3 that they should stick and stick the pick if he's there?
Yeah, I think Hutchinson or Evan Neal. I don't have a lot of trust in right now Laramie Tunsil's desire to be a Houston Texan. He never made it back this year. Just kind of went out with an injury in October, and that was that. Kind of like most Houston, the highest paid athletes just kind of don't play and just get paid. Well, that was Laramie. So I don't have a lot of confidence that the Texans feel like he's a long-term solution. He got his big payday. The previous staff had to, quote-unquote, make deals with him to get him to practice. I don't think it's a good connection. This whole going all-in thing was a disaster. It wasn't handled appropriately. You don't give up 2 first-round picks for a tackle and then don't have a deal done in advance so that he has all the leverage in the deal. So it's been a disaster, the Texans trade, just one of many disasters they put together. So I think if Evan Neal were there, you have to think pretty strongly about drafting Evan Neal, and they either trying to roll with Laramie Tunsil at left tackle and Evan Neal at right tackle, or if you can, move out of Laramie Tunsil's contract and try to pick up draft capital for that. But I think the 2 players, Aiden Hutchinson is a good pass rusher. He's a good player. People have kind of crapped on him a little bit because he's not this mega star, but he's a good player. I mean, he's going to make some he's going to be a good NFL player. So if he were there at 3, which I don't see any way that's going to be the case, I would pass on Thibodeau in that spot. I would probably draft Neal if he were there. Other than that, I'm a big fan of Kyle Hamilton out of Notre Dame, but it's just not a great year to have a top 5 pick, unfortunately. It's just kind of the way Houston rolls. Whenever they get first picks of the draft, they don't have great options. And, well, I say that, no one would have drafted Aaron Donald with the first pick of the draft in 2014, and yet he is the best player to come out of that 14 draft. The Texans ended up with Clowney, but that's just kind of the way that draft went that year.
Lance Zierlein is our guest. Of course, you listen to him Monday through Friday with John Granato on the bench, 7 to 10 a.m. And, of course, you can read his work at NFL.com. Lance, finally, just give us a list of some names that you think could make sense for the Texans in some of the mid-rounds. Texans have 9 picks. This is before a Deshaun Watson trade. Just rattle through a couple guys that you really like that you think would make some sense for the Texans.
Yeah, I mean, I think, one of the running backs I like a lot is a guy named Dameon Pierce, who might be around in the 3rd round from Florida. There's got Brian Cook, who is a safety out of Cincinnati that I'm a big fan. Dax Hill out of Michigan, another safety. I think those are kind of 2nd-round guys that I have a lot of interest in. Andrew Booth and Kyer Elam, 2 cornerbacks, one from Clemson, the other one from Florida, more like 2nd-round guys. And then there's some really intriguing defensive and offensive lineman from Tulsa by the name. He's about 6'5", 330 pounds, and he is a physical player by the name of Tyler Smith. He's a guy that I keep an eye on. He can either be a tackle or a guard. And then Kalia Davis is, I think, how you pronounce it, a guy who I just got done watching from Central Florida. He is a former linebacker turned defensive tackle. He was COVID opt-out in 2020. He had a season-ending knee injury this year, so he only played, I want to say, 4 or 5 games this year. But he is really intriguing, a very quick, up the field, explosive, kind of fits the one-gapping 3 technique Lovie Smith defense. And I think he's got tremendous upside as well. So he's a guy that you might see in about the 3rd round, depending on what his health looks like. I think he's going to be a pretty good tester. Defensive tackles who can rush the quarterback a little bit. tend not to go outside of the top 3 rounds. So those are some guys that I'd take a look at in those positions.
Lance, appreciate the time. We'll be listening tomorrow morning. Thanks for joining us.
Okay, sounds good. Thanks, guys.
Lance Zierlein from The Morning Show at NFL Network and NFL.com with us there on the HR&P guest line.
And Lance just gave us one hell of a homework assignment. I got to go look all these cats up that I hadn't heard of. He was a linebacker turned into a defensive tackle?
Well, actually,
that cat put on some weight.
Abram Smith, running back, he was a former linebacker out of Baylor. This dude scored a touchdown in the Senior Bowl. The guy's jacked. Unbelievable.
Yeah.
Really good draft class at the running back spot. Texans certainly could use another running back.
Go get 2 of them.
Why not? You got 9 picks.
Yeah, go get 2.
Don't do it at number 3, but number 2, second round, third round, fourth round.
Sure.
Why not?